All right, so there you have it. Understand, of course, when somebody's selling you something, why they're doing so and whether or not there's incentive. Of course, a lot of people out there are doing their job well, but then it's important to be fully aware of what you're buying always, right? You would do so for almost any other product. And speaking of buying other products, let's talk about the second leg of this conversation, which is what I like to call Tech Tuesday. We talk about consumer tech and things that you spend money on. And today I'd like to focus on the iPhone, the newest iPhone that is going to be launched soon, the iPhone 16e. Some may call it a budget phone. Of course, it still costs a lot of money. So what we're trying to do in this conversation is identify whether or not you should make the switch and whether you should choose this over something like the iPhone 16 Pro or the 16 Pro Max, or simply the iPhone 16. Joining me on this conversation is tech expert Dhruv Bhutani. Dhruv, thanks so much for taking the time. As always, pleasure having with you on the program. Take me through this iPhone 16e, because is this similar to what they were trying to do with the SE?
It is in some ways, but I think it's also a diametrically opposite approach. The iPhone SE was a lot more affordable. This is Apple's most affordable smartphone right now, but is it an affordable smartphone? That's debatable, considering that it's 60,000 rupees. But I think they have found the right compromises and the right product market fit for this, especially with, I mean, they had to make certain upgrades and they had to increase the price point because right now Apple is all about AI and Apple intelligence. And to build a phone that would be capable of running that would necessitate a more expensive phone. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is an interesting model that sits right below the iPhone 16. And I think it should find its takers for sure.
Okay, so talk to me about timelines. I looked at the site and it said coming soon, pre-order, etc. So when does it become available?
I believe the pre-order is open tomorrow. This Thursday. So it should be available in India within the next week or so.
Okay. All right. So we've gotten that out of the way. But let's talk about how it stacks up against the 16, because ultimately it's a difference of 10,000 rupees. Is that right, for the base model of the 16e? I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about the higher memory, because you would pay for more there. But the base model, you're talking about a 10,000 rupee difference. Is it then better to go for the 16e versus the 16? How does it differ?
Well, see, here's the thing. The iPhone 16 is going to be an incredible deal 3 to 4 months down the line. Right now, the 10,000 rupee price difference is simply because the iPhone 16 has also gotten discounts and is available for a little lower. I believe the retail price for that is 80,000 rupees. So that's a 20,000 rupee difference. And I mean, Apple is, the MRP for the iPhone 16e is 60,000, but I expect this will be down to sub 50,000 price points in the next couple of months. And that's where things get interesting, because it's got the same chipset, more or less the same chipset as the flagship model, a much upgraded camera, Apple Intelligence. And I think from a longevity point of view, this is a great bet. So having a modern iPhone, including Face ID, because if you remember, the iPhone SE didn't even have that. It only had the old fingerprint scanner, and it was a very dated design. So I think from that point of view, it's a very good effort to modernize their affordable lineup, while also accounting that this phone will become cheaper in the next few months and a lot more accessible.
Okay. Are you sacrificing a lot when you go for the 16e versus the 16 in terms of the features that are available, in terms of the design? There's one camera, but from just looking at the specifications, seemingly you're getting the same quality, but that's my layman's understanding. Dhruv, explain this to me.
I would say Apple's been pretty shrewd about the kind of compromises that they've made. I think the biggest one that most people will miss is the triple camera layout, or even like two cameras, which is to me a little absurd, because even 10,000 rupee phones have two cameras, and that is one aspect where Apple should not have skimmed out on. But other features like, say, dropping MagSafe support, I think that's a fair compromise. Even dropping dynamic island for a regular notch, it's not a big miss. These are nice premium features that are nice to have, but are not essential to the experience. And more than that, like this is the iPhone 16e has the longest battery life ever on an iPhone. That's partially because Apple is using this as a test bed for their own in-house modem. So other than the camera, I don't think you're really missing out on all that much.
Okay, it's interesting that you talk about the camera because to me the design of having one single camera actually appeals to me because it takes me back to the time when an iPhone only did have one camera, and the cleanness of the design is something that is a draw to me. I don't know if other people would think that, and if maybe you would have spoken to more people about this. Maybe I'm in a minority. What do you think?
Um, I don't think you're in a minority, to be honest, because online discourse generally revolves around enthusiasts, and this phone is not meant for enthusiasts, unless you're on a very tight budget and you want incredible performance, and there's that. I mean, at which point I would recommend that you just buy last year's iPhone at approximately the same price point. This is for people who just want a great iPhone, and this phone will do literally everything that you expect from it. Think parents, for example, people who don't want to fiddle around with camera settings. They just want a phone where you switch on the camera and get a great shot. A phone that will easily last them 5, 6, 7 years and has great battery life. So from that point of view, I think while the comments might be geared more towards enthusiasts, I don't think Apple is gearing this phone towards enthusiasts at all.
Yeah, that's a very fair point that you make because ultimately I know that this is a device that a lot of people do go for, and I must confess that when I looked at the options for the base model as opposed to the Pro and the Pro Max, I chose not to go for the Pro and the Pro Max, one because of affordability, of course, but also because I questioned whether or not I'd be using all of the features for the work that I did. Did I really need three cameras? Did I need that kind of power and processing speed for the regular activities? I don't think that I could make that justification and pay that kind of money for it. Now, having said that, Dhruv, at what point do you think that it makes sense to upgrade? Is the ideal cycle 3 iPhone generations or what?
Today, 3 to 4 generations is what I would put it at. You really do not need to upgrade anytime before that. And realistically speaking, if you're not much of a gamer or a smartphone photographer, and I mean by a smartphone photographer, I mean somebody who's avidly clicking a lot of photographs every day or going out and pushing the camera to its limits, uh, performance upgrades are minimal at best. So you can easily make your phone last 3, 4 years till the point perhaps you're noticing degradation of battery life. And that is the point at which you should start considering upgrading your phone. Because these high-end phones, they're all made to last. They're not, I mean, especially considering that even the software support is rated for 5 and more years at this point. So even the manufacturers do not expect you to be upgrading these phones every year.
Yeah, and the incremental change that they're able to bring to the table is frankly not that much. It hasn't changed so dramatically. Of course, processing power has changed, but the one factor that is changing, Dhruv, and the fact that we're talking about chipsets and we're talking about GPUs or graphics processors is AI, artificial intelligence, and that's something that will be launched early April, as I understand it, Apple Intelligence. Is that going to be that big a game changer?
So I'm already running it on the beta, and this is not running on Apple Intelligence, but all of these AI features, they are nice to have, and it really comes down to what do you make of them. If you find yourself using ChatGPT on your computer all the time, sure, you'll benefit from some of these local LLM models. But how many times a day do you actually generate an AI-based image? You don't. Um, with performance, with camera upgrades leading to diminishing returns, of course, a smartphone manufacturer has to come up with new features to sell you a phone. Uh, but I think at the end of the day, the customer has to decide, like, do I actually have any utility from those features? And AI at this point, I don't think it's a system seller for any smartphone.
Yeah, and that's a very very fair point that you make, and Dhruv, it ties in very well to the earlier conversation that we were having. Ultimately, when you are sold something, identify why you're being sold something, and finally make a decision based on what the utility is to you. Thanks so much for joining me on this conversation. Always a pleasure having you.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the end of this edition of Your Money Matters. And let us know what you think in the comment section, and do stay tuned. Lots more coming up on NDTV Profit.